Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Following the Bank of Canada increasing its key rate yet again, comes news that the central bank also dished out millions of dollars in bonuses. We have an update on the wildfire situation in both Alberta and BC as lightning strikes force more evacuations. And this weekend is Street Machine Weekend in Lethbridge, a 3-day event hosting thousands of vehicles, including a number of muscle cars and hot rods.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The BC port strike appears to be over. Around 7,400 longshore workers and their employers at more than 30 ports have reached a tentative deal to end the nearly 2-week-old strike. The 4-year deal was reached earlier today after the federal labor minister ordered the two sides to consider proposals put forward by a mediator. Business groups and some politicians have been urging Labor Minister Seamus O'Regan to legislate an end to the strike. Analysts estimate that the strike affected billions of dollars worth of cargo. The 4-year deal is subject to ratification by members of both the union and the maritime employers. The recent strike at BC port workers caused revenue at sea and rail to plunge 60% in the first week alone. Analysts say the same key metric dropped by 45% at Canadian Pacific Kansas City. They say the plummeting container cargo will likely impact railway earnings as CN has 37% of its total carloads originating in British Columbia. Around 20% of CP shipments roll through the Vancouver docks. As you may have heard on Bridge City News, the Bank of Canada increased its rate to 5%, and the big banks followed suit, raising their prime lending rate to 7.2%. This will make things that much more expensive for Canadians. Now, did you also know that the Bank of Canada doled out $20 million in bonuses despite a 40-year high inflation? Access to Information also revealed that they also handed out $6.5 million in raises. Now, to chat about this in more detail is Franco Terrazzano, the Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, who joins us from Ottawa. Franco, many would argue the Bank of Canada had one job, failed that job, and still dished out millions in taxpayer dollars to their employees. How much on average per employer are we talking about here?
We're talking about more than $11,000 was the average bonus check that these central bankers were getting. You know, I can't believe I have to say this, but bonuses are for people who do a good job, not for people who fail at their one and only job, right? The Bank of Canada has one job: to keep inflation low and around 2%. Well, last year, the Bank of Canada allowed inflation to reach a 40-year high. And it didn't matter. They still gave out bonuses anyways. They gave out $20 million in bonuses in 2022, $18 million in bonuses in 2021, $16 million in bonuses in 2020. So all told, the Bank of Canada handed out almost $72 million in bonuses and pay raises since the beginning of the pandemic.
So what was their justification in handing out $20 million in bonuses?
Well, I don't think there is one. I don't think there is a good justification, okay? Because here's the craziest part of this entire story. The Bank of Canada itself admits that it missed the mark on inflation. No duh. And the Bank of Canada has also said that it should be held accountable. But handing out big bonus checks is a very odd way to hold your organization accountable, don't you think? So here's what has to happen. We need to end the bonuses at these failing crown corporations like the Bank of Canada. Because here's the thing, folks. Central bankers should not be taking bonuses when Canadians can't afford gasoline or groceries or homes.
Thanks so much, Franco. That was Franco Terrazzano, Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, joining us from Ottawa. The latest report by Rentals.ca puts the average asking price for a rental unit here in Canada at a record high of $2,042 last month. It is pegging year-over-year rent inflation at 7.5% in June. That is well below the double-digit growth seen for most of last year and the early part of this year. Vancouver is Canada's most expensive city for renters, followed by Burnaby, BC, and then Toronto. Well, we've enjoyed some beautiful summer so far here in southwestern Alberta, and the warmer temperatures shall continue. Jeanette Rocher is back from the Calgary Stampede with a quick peek at the forecast. Jeanette, we've seen some more wildfire smoke in our region and things but may be cooling off a little bit. Is there risk of more showers developing?
Yeah, that's true, Hal. And we are hoping that it will clear up some of the wildfire smoke in the area. Now, Environment Canada has issued a special air quality statement for Lethbridge, saying that the health index in the region is sitting at a 7, which is considered high risk, and that is supposed to remain into Friday. Now, we are expecting a 60% chance of showers this evening on Thursday night with a risk of a thunderstorm, and then another chance of showers, 30% chance by Friday afternoon with the risk of a thunderstorm. So here's hoping that that clears away some of that smoke. Now, I will be back later in the show to give you the full national forecast. Hal?
Great. Thanks so much, Jeanette. Alberta Wildfire says there are currently 116 active wildfires in the province, including many which are still burning in the Fort McMurray and Peace River regions. Emergency officials say 14 are still burning out of control, but fortunately 43 are being held. As for how many of these active fires started, the province says around 69% were caused by lightning, 18% are suspicious, and around 13% were human-caused, which means by a campfire, an errant cigarette, or by hot exhaust. In total, Alberta has seen 846 wildfires so far. More than 29,000 Albertans have still been evacuated. Fire officials in British Columbia say they will be seeking federal aid as firefighters continue to battle around 350 active blazes, most of them in the Northwest and Prince George regions. Officials say thousands of lightning strikes have hit during a recent storm. Several evacuation orders and alerts were issued, including for the village of Burns Lake, the North Shore of Francois Lake, and the Teepee Lake area of Quesnel. Meanwhile, fire crews in the Yukon are managing to keep a blaze outside of Whitehorse away from homes along the south side of the Alaska Highway. The fire, however, continues to grow and is now around 8 square kilometers. Meanwhile, back here in southwestern Alberta, officials at Lethbridge County say they still remain on alert for any grass fires, although a region has had some rain in the past week. Officials with the county say a grass fire even sparked on Wednesday night due to a lightning strike, and they're urging residents to take precaution when it comes to fires.
For the most part, if you follow the rules set out in most of the burn permits, just be cautious. Have something there that if a spark gets away, you can quickly douse it, because when they're small, they're quite easily manageable. It's when they kind of get away from you. Stay away from windy days, and yeah, keep it where you can control it, because it can get big really fast.
Alberta Wildfire says more than 850,000 hectares of land have burned so far this wildfire season. Local farmers were getting some massive on-field experience on Thursday morning for Farming Smarter's Plot Hop event. Around 60 people gathered to hear from various speakers about their work in the agriculture industry here in southern Alberta. BCN's Micah Quinn has that story.
This is a paid event, so it tends to be the folks that are really eager and interested in digging into the science and agronomy of everything, and so yeah, it's a good day.
A total of 6 speakers had a chance to present during the event, and guests were able to hop over to various fields by the Farming Smarter office. Ken Coles, the executive director of the organization, says the initiative is an opportunity for producers to share what they've been working on so far.
Some of the preliminary results, but also to hear from the farmers and agronomists out there with the challenges that they're dealing with. So these types of events are always a great opportunity to network, meeting other minds, and figure out how things are going, and just stay connected with science and the practical side of farming.
Coles also made a presentation on Thursday morning talking about plant growth regulators in barleys.
So this study is looking at a product on 3 different varieties of barley that have different growth habits and different heights, because there tend to be different results, and we're going to share what we're seeing, and there's actually some pretty good visuals here where the untreated checks are about 10 centimeters taller than the ones with plant growth regulators, and this is a fairly new thing to barley. The plant growth regulators have been around for a long time, used heavily in Europe, and just in the last 10 years have been sort of popularized in certain production practices here.
For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Lethbridge's Pollinator Cafe project has now expanded with new planters located throughout the city. Students from the University of Lethbridge's Dillon School of Business and Environment Lethbridge are partnering for the project. Kathleen Shepard, the executive director of the nonprofit group, explained why these pollinator cafes are so vital for our region.
pollinators are important for all of us, both for our ecosystems, but also for food. And so we looked at this project as a way to kind of extend it a little bit beyond the downtown and create some new locations. So we installed 11 new pollinator cafes at some locations in the warehouse district. And the students were engaged kind of from the beginning of the project, doing all the planning and then helping out with the planting as well. So it was a great partnership.
By the way, the large self-watering planters were first installed in 2022 in our city's downtown core. It was a collaboration between the City of Lethbridge Parks Department and the Helen Schuler Nature Center. The 45th annual Street Machine event will be taking place this weekend. Many will be gathered in our city during the 3-day event, checking out thousands of classic cars, including muscle cars and hot rods, and a 100-foot drag race. Organizers say it's an opportunity for car enthusiasts to really show off their projects.
This is a great time to bring them out. And with our events, we try to promote a very safe, exciting atmosphere. For people who have never raced before, they can come out to the 100-footer. We'll have experienced racers teach them if they choose to. Even if you just want to come spectate, you can do that as well. And, we just want everybody to have as much fun and be as safe as possible.
Meanwhile, Lethbridge police say they're going to see an increased volume of traffic over the weekend up and down Mayor McGrath Drive South. And they're reminding people to stay safe and abide by the rules of the road this weekend.
So last year, similar to this year, we'll have increased police presence as well in that area, focusing on driving habits and making sure those people are safe. Last year, I think we issued just over 100 violation tickets. I believe we towed three vehicles and charged one person with impaired driving.
The Street Wheelers Street Machine event runs Friday through Sunday at Exhibition Grounds and at Gull Gardens. The town of Fort Macleod was bustling on Wednesday as they celebrated the 150th anniversary of the RCMP, and they did so with the annual musical ride. Members of town council and official dignitaries like 99-year-old retired LPS veteran Glenn Mickelson were on hand to salute the riders. The troop of officers performed intricate drills and formations with their horses for about 30 minutes. The group also participated in the Calgary Stampede this year. Well, the Stampede is now into its 7th day. The greatest outdoor show on earth wraps up this weekend on Sunday, July 16th. Our BCN crew spent a 16-hour day on the grounds on Wednesday, covering everything from the midway to artists and the powwow competition. Jeanette Rocher caught up with the Stampede's director of programming to talk about all of the concerts still taking place this weekend, if you're planning on heading out.
This year we've got a great lineup of concerts. This weekend you can check out Mother Mother on the Coca-Cola stage or Tennille Arts at Nashville North. We also have Zed's Dead and an EDM mix bill on Saturday night at the Coca-Cola stage, or Coffee. Of course, the Bell Grandstand show is a true highlight. We always say that that's a 65-minute Super Bowl halftime show. Features our fireworks spectacular at the end of the night as well.
Yeah, every time. And you know what? The Grandstand show is always one of my favorite parts of Stampede. Who's performing this year at the Grandstand show?
Well, this year at the Bell Grandstand show, we have a great lineup. We have Johnny Reed as one of our featured performers, and then Swing Latino, who you might recognize. They performed with Jennifer Lopez a few years ago in the Super Bowl.
We can't talk about the Stampede without mentioning some of the main attractions, including the world-famous rodeo and the chuck wagon races. BCN producer Michael Clausen found a chuck wagon outrider who talks about the horses he races.
Who doesn't love horses? Talk to me about how you personally, as an outrider, would prepare your horse.
So usually we got a really good barn crew, so they'll make sure they're washed and their feed, like they'll eat 3 times a day and exercise. And but before the race, we'll get them, and we just try to be calm, cool, and collected. If you're calm and cool, they're gonna go out and do their job, and you just got to do yours. So you just try to be the best version of yourself for them, and usually they'll give you return the favor.
Right, horses are really amazing animals. Can you talk about maybe even the personality of the different horses?
Yeah, so it's just like anything. Like it's just like meeting a group of people. Like every horse is different. Every horse has a story and it's got a different personality. So you just gotta adapt and really listen and like focus on your horse and know what he's trying to tell you.
Once again, the Calgary Stampede wraps up this Sunday, July 16th. Bridge City News will have a special weekend newscast broadcasting from the Stampede grounds. Be sure to tune in. You know, many Albertans are angry with the fact that the 4 men who were charged during the Coutts border blockade during the COVID-19 pandemic are still in jail. We're talking about Anthony Oleanik, Chris Carbert, Chris Lysak, and Jerry Morin from Southern Alberta. Now, 3 of the 4, Morin, Oleanik, and Lysak, face a charge of conspiracy to commit murder. Now, to talk about this in more detail is criminal defense lawyer Ari Goldkind, who joins us from Toronto. Now, Ari, back in February of 2022, police say they seized guns, ammunition, and body armor from the men. The charge of conspiracy to commit murder sounds pretty serious. Why do you think some people are upset that these men are still behind bars?
Well, I don't really know why they're upset that they're behind bars, because these would be the very same people who would complain that if police officers were shot, perhaps by a minority shooter or somebody that looked differently than these 4 men, that shooter of police should be behind bars and shouldn't be out on bail. And the second part is, I was outraged that Tamara Leach, a very well-known name, had to suffer behind bars, and she should never have had to fight so hard for her bail, not the first time, the second, or even the imaginary third. But these are not Tamara Leach-like offenses. These are men with an arsenal that if other people had them, perhaps from the Mideast or overseas, had this kind of arsenal, these very same people would be saying they belong behind bars, and until they have a trial where the Crown hasn't proven their guilt or their innocence is demonstrated, let the criminal justice process play out. That's what's happened here. So I'm sorry, I don't clutch my pearls about the fact that these men remain detained until trial.
Now, Chris Lysak, like the other 3, is facing a number of charges, including uttering threats. What is the difference between conspiracy to commit murder and uttering threats?
Basically, for people to understand, because it's not complex legalese, if I said to people sitting at a dinner table with me, what sounds more serious, conspiracy to commit murder or threatening somebody? I think people would say as soon as you add in the word conspiracy and particularly murder, it changes the atmosphere, and it does for a number of reasons. It changes the atmosphere in terms of how the matter will proceed. It will likely be with a jury versus a very quick threatening kind of trial or plea at a lower court. 2, the maximum punishment is life in jail. That is not the maximum punishment for threatened death. And remember, an utter threat charge may be saying something to you in the heat of a moment, I'm going to kill you. If you come by my house again, I'm going to shoot you or I'm going to punch you. The conspiracy to commit murder charge, which really specifically is a very, very serious charge in the criminal code, is meant to sound serious. And I think charging these men with threatening would have been a preposterously ridiculous and way off base charge, and they're charged accordingly.
Wow. Thank you for your time, Ari. Ari Goldkind is a criminal defense lawyer who joined us from Toronto. Lethbridge received a special air quality statement from Environment Canada earlier today as the wildfire smoke returned. But fortunately, some rain is also in the forecast, hopefully clear out some of that air a little bit. Full weather details are coming up. It appears as though some of that wildfire smoke is back here in southwestern Alberta. Jeanette Rocher is also back from her Calgary Stampede excursion and has all of the weather details. Jeanette, hopefully some of the rain in our forecast here may clear the air a little bit for Lethbridge.
Yeah, well, that certainly is the hope, Hal, because our air quality index was sitting at a 7 today. That is supposed to remain into Friday as well. So we are hoping that some showers could clear the air a little bit there. We are expecting a 60% chance this evening with thunderstorms, 30% chance of showers on Friday with the risk of thunderstorms again. 26 for a high, though, so it's going to be a warm one. And then look at those temperatures for the weekend. Lots of sunshine, 28 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday. And then as we get into Monday, high of 30 degrees, and we could see that 40% chance of showers again. 27 for a high on Tuesday with plenty of sunshine and a mix of sun and cloud expected. And a high of 24 degrees on Wednesday to round out that 7-day forecast. So the average high for this time of year, 25. We're going to be much higher than that this week. 10 degrees is the average low. 37, that was the record high on this day back in 2000. And back in 1974 on this day, it was a record low, which was 3 degrees. At 5:38, that was when the sun rose this morning, sunset this evening. morning, 9:36, just under 16 hours of daylight. We're looking at 15 hours and 58 minutes. Okay, on the west coast, mainly sunny conditions and light winds in Victoria, high of 26 degrees. Expect those winds to kick up a little bit in the Juan de Fuca Strait up to 40K. 23 for a high in Vancouver, mainly sunny skies, but as you move further inland, more like 26. High humidity expected there as well. 23 for a high both in Edmonton and Calgary, and both of those cities expecting some widespread smoke. Looking at shower conditions as well tomorrow. 30% chance of showers in Edmonton, 60% expected in Calgary. Both could see risk of thunderstorms, and both looking at winds up to 40 kilometers per hour. Okay, in Saskatchewan, we are looking at some poor air quality and reduced visibility due to some wildfires, smoke moving in from the northwest, and it's affecting the regions around Saskatoon and Regina. That should last into Friday, but we are looking at 25 for a high for both of those cities, and Regina could also see a chance of showers tomorrow with the risk of thunderstorms. 24 for a high, though, in Winnipeg with a mix of sun and cloud. Now, as we get into the central part of the country, we are looking at very high humidity. We're looking at humidexes in the high 20s and into the 30s. Toronto looking at a high of 27 degrees. Same thing for Ottawa, and Montreal sitting at a high of 26 degrees. Partly cloudy skies for all three of those cities. And as we get into the Atlantic part of the country, looking at shower activity, Fredericton also seeing a risk of a thunderstorm there, 27 for the high. Same thing in Halifax, high 27, but a mix of sun and cloud there, mainly sunny skies in Charlottetown expected, and 22 degrees expected in St. John's. But as you're more by the coast, there's only going to be about 16 degrees. And fog retreating into the coast there as well. Mix of sun and cloud for the rest of the area. There you have it. That is your forecast.
The almost 2-week-long port strike in British Columbia appears to be over. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union Canada and the BC Maritime Employers Association agreed to a tentative 4-year deal on Thursday morning. Both parties recommended settlement terms from a federal mediator. The agreement must still be ratified by both sides, and no details about the terms have yet been released. Around 7,400 workers have been on strike since July 1st, halting shipments in and out of around 30 ports in British Columbia, including Canada's largest, the Port of Vancouver. Analysts say the strike was hurting the Canadian economy to the tune of $500 million per day. Royal LePage says the real estate market is close to the point where it will have fully recovered from the drop in home sales last year as interest rates rose. This comes as the firm says the average home price in Canada dropped 0.7% year over year in the second quarter. The house price survey says the average price of a home was $809,200 in the quarter. The firm says prices in the fourth quarter this year are now expected to be up 8.5% compared to last year. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 206 points on the day to finish at 20,277. The Dow was up 47 points to 34,395. The S&P 500 was up 37 on the day to 4510, and the Nasdaq was up 219 points to 14,138. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $1.48 to $77.23 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 8 cents to $2.55 US. Gold was up $3.04 on the day to $19.60.39 US an ounce. And silver was up 74 cents to $24.86 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $11.38 per bushel, barley's at $9.43, canola's at $18.41, and corn is at $9.91 per bushel. Feeder cattle August contract was up 2 cents to $176.90. Feeder cattle August contract was down $1.58 to $245, and lean hogs were up $1.18 to $102.35. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 76.27 US. Recapping one of our top stories, and in case you're just joining us, the BC port strike appears to be over. Around 7,400 longshore workers and their employers at more than 30 ports have reached a tentative deal to end the nearly 2-week-old strike. The 4-year deal was reached earlier today after the federal labor minister ordered the two sides to consider proposals put forward by a mediator. There are special ways that dads can really connect with their kids. Coming up, BCN's Naveen Day chats with Jay and Laura Laffoon, authors of Ultimate Dad Night, who have some very creative suggestions for us. Listen, if you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. We'd love to hear from you.
You know, today's world seems to be getting more and more busy, making it a challenge to find and spend quality time with our children. Today's guests have some interesting ideas how to do that and how to develop better relationships with our families. Jay and Laura Laffoon are the authors of Ultimate Dad Night, 75 amazing activities for dads and kids. Jay and Laura, welcome to Bridge City News.
It's great to be here.
Excellent. Great to have you. So give us a brief overview of your book and tell us why you thought it was important to write this.
Well, men tend to connect with other people shoulder to shoulder. Women are more face to face. Men are activity oriented. In other words, I want to go golf with my buddies. I want to go hunt with my buddies, go fishing with my buddies. We're side by side. And so oftentimes when we see moms and kids connecting in that little face to face, we get insecure because that's not our style. And so being a creative guy, I started thinking of things that we could do as dads with our kids that would, number one, be fun. Number two, be a teaching moment from time to time, and really just an opportunity for dads to connect with kids in the way in which dads do. And that is side by side doing activities.
So is this book exclusively for dads, or are there some activities in the book that could possibly be helpful for others as well?
Well, every once in a while we can drag mom along too, but we recommend for grandparents, for uncles, just any guy that's got kids somewhere in their world. Fun way, if you want to be the fun uncle or you want to be the fun grandpa, here's a great way to make that happen.
Moms are going to be the ones to buy the book. So you want to include mom in the book at some point, in some of the activities. But yes, in this culture, we do find a lot more grandparents raising their grandkids. So it is for dads, grandparents, granddads, and uncles, anybody that has children in their life.
Yeah. And again, for stepdads, what an amazing tool. It's like a little field guide. It's just this handy dandy little book, like a field guide for stepdads to connect with kids that they haven't been around for a very long time.
Now, it's interesting that you brought up stepdads because, I'm unmarried. I don't have kids of my own. However, when I go on dates with women, it's almost a guarantee that she would have children of her own, given our age. So not ever having had children of my own, I tend to be a little awkward around kids because I don't have any of my own. So how could this book help men who may be future step-parents in the future?
Sure, that's a great question because statistically speaking, there's going to be a lot of them, and that's a good thing to have connection. Our daughter-in-law was raised by her stepfather and calls him dad. So it's a powerful, powerful thing. One of the things you can do is there's 75. Just ask your child to pick a number between 1 and 75, and it takes all the awkwardness out. We're going to randomly pick an activity, or let the child pick. The activities are very simple. We have a key in the front as to how much money it's going to cost you, how much time it's going to take, how much effort, age appropriateness. So there's many, many different ways to take the awkwardness out when you're looking through the book.
Or you could just not tell the kid that you have the book and just come up with this really brilliant idea. Hey, we should go do this today. And then you look like the hero.
Yeah, there you go. You look like a superstar.
That's amazing. Now you offer creative, budget-friendly activities, and some of which I hear are free, that also serve as catalysts for conversation, vulnerability, and fun. So can you share some of these activities and explain how these ideas motivate everyone in the family to participate?
Well, my favorite activity is the waffle bar, where you just make waffles. And then you have all different kinds of toppings, whether it's whipped cream or ice cream or chocolate, caramel, everybody, and let everybody make their own. And then you talk about how we're all different because we all, you made yours with butterscotch and I made mine with chocolate, and we're all different. We need to celebrate everybody's differences. That's just an easy one.
So what we've done is we've done the activity. We've done a section where you can draw closer to God and make a spiritual connection, and then a section where you can draw closer to each other. And so we got some questions for you already to ask your kids, again, to ease the awkwardness. But I've got 3 favorites, different age groups. For the little ones, a very inexpensive thing, you can go to a craft store and buy a birdhouse kit. And it's just, you just glue little pieces together and you make this little birdhouse, and you can paint it, make it unique, and set it somewhere in the yard or on a post where you can watch birds come and go. Very simple. Even a 3-year-old can help do that kind of a thing. For that middle section, that 10 to 12-year-old section, my favorite one is an obstacle course. Just start hauling stuff out of the garage into the backyard and set up some sort of obstacle course for them to run, time them, see who can do it the fastest, make it different. And that was absolutely free. You don't have to pay a dime for that, but you're going to have a lot of fun creating it and then running the obstacle course. And then for the older teenagers, one of the things that's becoming very popular here in the States is axe throwing. And so like bowling alleys, these axe throwing, you have your own lane and it's protected, and they teach you how to throw an axe. And it's really a lot of fun because you feel like you're, back in the olden days trying to kill a moose or something. I don't know. But they have all sorts of contests that you can play with the axe throwing. And again, for the older kids, that's something that's unique, fun, not some boring kid thing. So we really try and make it age appropriate.
That's amazing. Now, one thing I'm really enjoying about this interview is that we're not really on a heavy topic. This is very lighthearted. There's some laughter in here. So going to your book, you believe that laughter and humor are important in a relationship and a family. So what's your advice to fathers whose circumstances make laughter and humor a challenge?
That really is a good question. And we don't want to make light of anybody's situations and what you're going through, but it is important to laugh, especially with your kids, even though you're going through, whatever it might be. We were just talking to a friend yesterday who's going through an awful divorce, but we were trying to make him laugh. And when he laughed, he said, that feels really good. And so just to remember that no matter what you're going through, it's important to laugh, and that laughter really helps you release some of that tension, some of that anxiety, and just gives you a moment. And especially when you have kids who might be going through the same situation with you, whether it's a divorce or loss of job or whatever it might be, to let them see that, we can't let life get us down all the time. We got to have some time where we just relax and have a good time.
And I think, there's a passage of scripture, an old proverb, that laughter doeth like good medicine. And trust us, pain is universal. We've all experienced our own pain. You go through seasons of severe pain, whether it's job loss, relationship issues, health issues. And it's just important to remember that pain and joy are two sides of the same coin. We wouldn't know joy if we didn't know pain, and we wouldn't know pain if we didn't know joy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
to model that for your kids. And that's why we believe laughter is good medicine, is because you're giving your kids hope when you can make them laugh. You're giving your kids some of that joy. And there's nothing more precious than to hear little kids giggling. And honestly, dad and mom set the tone. And that tone is important to set in a real positive way.
Now, I want to hear your thoughts on this. What about parenting trends that encourage parents to connect with their kids through TikTok challenges, apps, and social media? I want to hear your thoughts on that, and how else can parents connect with their children and encourage them to participate in activities as a family?
We get this question a lot about the TikTok challenges and stuff. And, I think as a parent, you just got to be smart. And, if it looks like something fun, I remember when when I first figured out what TikTok was, all the whole dance things, and some of my friends were dancing with their kids on TikTok. And I'm like, it's pretty funny, as long as it was appropriate. And, so some of those I think are okay. You've just, as a parent, got to be the adult and decide what is good. We just had a friend who his son was doing some challenge on throwing a basketball through hoops from some, enormous far away place. And it was really fun to watch him and to watch this kid, make this trick shot. And so those kinds of things are fun. I think you just have to remember that at times it's really important to put down the phone. We hear from parents all the time, well, I just want to capture the memory. Well, you know what? The memory isn't in a photo. The memory is in your child's heart and in their head. And so really put down the phone from time to time, but use it in a good way and be smart about it.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with electronics and technology and things like TikTok challenges and making reels and all those things that you can do together as a family or as a dad and kids. But one of the things that happens when we carry that little Duber around. It's not a phone, it's a distraction device. And that's the challenge sometimes, is to put the distractions away so that this child knows I'm connecting with you, or if it's children, I'm connecting with just you three, and no one else in the world matters right now because you are that important to me. I'm putting my phone away for just a while.
Now, I was born with amazing parents, but when I was born, my dad was in his mid to late 40s already, so he was really, really into his career at the time. He was an ordained clergyman and as well a professor of world religion. So he was very, very busy, and it didn't seem like he really had a lot of time to play with me, or he didn't really have a lot of energy, like given his age and his work schedule. So can you just tell me, like, how can fathers with really demanding work and kids schedules find time to connect with their children?
I think you have to be intentional.
Make an appointment.
Dads who are especially businessmen who have appointments all day long. You've just got to work that. Not work it into your schedule, but you've got to make your children a priority and make that intentionality. You really have to put that on your calendar and say, I'm blocking this day off. This is the day I'm taking my kids to the zoo or wherever it is you're going to go. And not only will you set a model for your children, but you're going to set a model for your employees, for people who work beside you, that you're taking that time off to be with your kids. And that really sets an example.
I've got a buddy that his wife is an ordained United Methodist minister. And so Sunday mornings, she's out the door, 6 a.m., getting ready for services and everything. And he started a tradition with his child, donuts with dad on Sunday morning. Well, that's going to be our breakfast. We're going to go out to the donut shop. We're going to get donuts, hot chocolate, coffee, whatever. And I think that's another way for busy dads to, create some sort of a tradition that, this is our, it's Bacon Wednesday. I don't know, whatever it might be, but, this is something we do, Taco Tuesday. And as a busy person, you learn to schedule yourself and manage your schedule and to just make sure that you leave time and both physical and emotional energy for your kids.
Now, I mentioned earlier how it can be sometimes awkward for men to connect with children, especially if they aren't like their biological children. But despite differences in communication and interests, how can fathers motivate themselves to connect with their families? And is it possible for fathers and their children to find that lasting happiness?
I think that's a great question, because life is so full of ebbs and flows, and I think every season is very different. I was quite awkward when the newborns came home because I was afraid I was going to break them. But once they hit about 18 months, Dad was on the floor playing wrestle. I mean, that was all we did was we had a lot of fun on the floor, tickling and doing stuff like that. And then, particularly my daughter, as she got into junior high. Man, I could hardly look at her without, doing, Dad, don't look at me like that. Okay, well, I don't know what I was doing. So it ebbs and flows. And I think what you've got to do is you've got to be consistent. You've got to really work to be consistent. Laura's very good at that. And in all ways, both the praise and the punishment, how can you be consistent so that they know that they're not going to walk in to a situation that they never expected.
Why is it important for dads and families to grow deeper spiritually?
Legacy. What's the legacy you're going to leave? I've got a friend who built a legacy house. I'm like, really? Donate money to a hospital, donate money to your college, whatever. But the legacy you want to leave is in the hearts and the minds and the character of your kids, because that's what's going to live on. I'll never forget, my grandmother died when she was 92, and all her friends had, passed away before her, and we're doing a little graveside service. And all of a sudden, a bunch of these old people start walking over. They were like in their 70s. And I said, Dad, who are they? And he said, son, those people were in your grandma's youth group when she was leading the youth group. And I'm like, there you go. That's that legacy of, we're going to invest in our kids, but in other kids. And the more we invest, the bigger the rewards.
Now, you've got some funny family videos online. Where can we watch them?
jayandlaura.com, JAYANDLAURA.com. And that'll direct you to our YouTube channel and Facebook and some of the other stuff.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Jay and Laura.
Our pleasure.
Jay and Laura Laffoon are the authors of Ultimate Dad Night, 75 Amazing Activities for Dads and Kids.
The film industry here in Alberta keeps building a following, but that's not without the hard work of those within our province who continue to advocate for more TV and film productions. And why not? Alberta has incredible backdrops with our beautiful Rocky Mountains, the foothills, along with our spectacular towns and cities. You don't have to look much further than southwestern Alberta and the town of Fort Macleod, which has had a number of productions shot there, including Ghostbusters. Now, to talk about more about what Alberta has to offer is University of Lethbridge professor Derek Olson, Brock Skredding of Keep Alberta Rolling, and award-winning director Scott Sikma. Gentlemen, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you.
Derek, let's begin with you. TV and films are so popular that more and more people are signing up for your cinematography course at the University of Lethbridge. How did this course come to be?
Well, I mean, I've been at the University of Lethbridge since around 2000 and 2007. I'm actually an alum of the University of Lethbridge as well. So I finished my degree about 20 years ago. And when I was a student here, there wasn't a film program. There was a multimedia program, was right brand new, and they did a little bit of video work, and that's sort of where I started. And when I went away to finish my master's degree, I always had in my mind to be able to come back and sort of grow some of the curriculum offerings here at the University of Lethbridge and teach students more about how to make films.
So when your students enroll in the program, is it all about the storytelling or more about maybe the production side of things, such as learning the low angle and depth of field shots?
Well, I mean, there's lots of different courses that I teach, and there's lots of other faculty at the university that also contribute to a really broad-based kind of approach to the film industry and to the media industry more broadly. But really, it touches more of what I teach is on the storytelling side of things and not really into a lot of the technical stuff. But it is a really good balance between the creative side of things and preparing people with the skills-based training.
Yeah, you need a good storyline, absolutely, to sell a film or a TV series. Brock Skredding is one of your former students and is succeeding in the industry. Brock, what is your biggest takeaway from the program at the U of L?
Yeah, I think it just it lays the foundation for success in a number of ways. I think like you see the convergence of different types of narrative filmmaking and video game production, AR, VR, all types of different things. All of those are based on story and based on a wide range of technical skills. So it gives you a little bit of taste of everything, and then you kind of get to pick which direction you want to start to specialize in afterward. So it really sets you up with that foundation so that you can go into your career on good footing and then make decisions onto which area most interests or most fits your skills.
So Brock, one of the more important parts of post-secondary education is that true and meaningful connection the student can make. Can you talk about the opportunity to collaborate on projects and how it led to your success in building your career in the film and TV industry?
Yeah, I think I mean I'll say Derek's he's on the line, so I'll just tell a bit about a narrative production class that we took back in U of L. We would make these short films, and I just remember it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to put these productions together, even at a student level. So he was an extremely patient and helpful and knowledgeable professor that, he really, it didn't matter what time of day or what the actual schedule of the classes were, he would help out not just myself, but all the students. So I've always been grateful for that, and I take that experience with me into the industry as I work, for sure.
That's great. Now, Scott, you're an award-winning director. Can you chit-chat a bit about the mentorship that you received that led to where you are now?
So it actually it came at like a last-minute thing, and it was great. Derek was directing a feature film while I was in school there. It worked out. He was looking for more people, and gave me the opportunity to come in and AD with him and get to see the building blocks of how film and everything works together in a student film, and well, more than a student film, in a feature film, and gave me the building blocks that I carry along through the career. And it was great to learn it there, because it was, especially with Derek, it was like, no, this is, learn your mistakes here, learn how to get through it, learn your problems here, so that when you go out in the industry, you have the fundamentals, you have the knowledge to do this. And that's what Derek brought to the table for us.
So Scott, what are some of the other bigger productions you've been involved with?
I've been all over, from following Christopher Nolan with Interstellar. I just finished first ADing for director Walter Hill doing Dead for a Dollar. I'm signed to do his next feature film as well. I can't say anything about it yet, but I'm signed for that one. And it's great. I've been working with A-list actors all over the world. I went down all over the States and Europe and Canada, and it's just go, go, go. And I'm very much a motto of, I just keep kicking doors as I go, and people say no to me, and I'll swamp their office with resumes, every single desk. I don't care. I love this industry, and it's got to me where I am, and it's up from here. It's, again, I'm signed for directing another Christmas movie, directing another summer romance, and Hallmark's been really great for those things, and it's been bringing me all over. I love everything from the A-list movies down to the C-list and D-list. Whatever it is, it's about the story and it's about the passion behind it, and that's what I love.
Quite the adventures here. Now, can you talk about what you needed to learn as a student to really connect with the viewer through storytelling?
It was learning those fundamentals, and that's especially with Derek's narrative classes and script buildings. It was learning your start, your middle, your finish, learning your big whale, how the story all comes together, and it's teaching us how to allow our actors to be actors. At the end of the day, I'm a director, but I'm just there to push and pull them in the right direction. It's up to them to bring it, and that was a huge thing that Derek showed us, is let them do their jobs, let them be who they are, and that's how you're going to succeed.
Now, Derek, you have your own accolades in the film industry, and it's not an easy industry to be in now. Can you talk about how you've seen students supported and encouraged to pursue their career and passion in film?
I think you're right. Yeah, it is a very challenging industry to be in. There's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of starts and stops in the industry, and I think that's one of the benefits of having a post-secondary environment to learn in, because it allows you to create those connections with your fellow students and with your professors, and when you bring people in from the industry to visit with the students, and it's that network that helps to provide opportunities and to point people in the next direction. We're doing a show over here, to be able to connect with people, and I mean, one of the things that I tell my students a lot, especially early on, is that a reputation is difficult to build and difficult to earn. It's incredibly easy to lose. And so it's those relationships that I really strive for those students to build and to maintain, and to support them. I'm in touch with a lot of my former students and continue to encourage them and watch them succeed, and that's really fun. And get an opportunity like this to even just visit with them again and see all the success that they've been having.
You can be like a proud papa, you know, that's my girl, that's my boy right there, you know. Derek, as a professor in film studies, how do you feel students can be kept from really falling through the cracks and maybe losing motivation?
I mean, that's challenging too, right? Because a lot of people, especially when they get started in this, don't understand the kind of effort it takes. And Scott was just talking about that, right? About how, you know, it's a lot of hustle, right? It's a lot of being proactive and being really assertive in charting your own direction. And so, I mean, it's trying to set realistic expectations for students, especially when they first get into my classes, and then also, you know, bringing people like Scott and Brock and others into the student kind of environment to be able to help reinforce those expectations and really help those students know what it's going to take to be successful.
Scott, let's flesh this out a little bit more here. What would you say were some of the main factors of your education that really helped to contribute to your success?
I think the main factors were, it's the fundamentals that Derek and the teachers there all taught us, but it's also the connections I made there a lot of the students I went to school with, me and Brock were in the same classes, and it's great back and forth when I've done a few things with Keep Alberta Rolling and to see what they bring forward to the table, as well as other students. One of my producers now is Carly James, and me and her started at the exact same time, right next to each other on the computer, and we followed each other throughout the past 10 years, working Vancouver, in the States, working Canada, and it's not just them, it's so many students that I'm constantly reaching out to, and I'll meet up with them on set, and it's like, oh, okay, you have connections here, I have connections here, how can we help each other move forward? And Derek is really right. It's a huge thing about building your reputation, building yourself up, and it's that connection of the other students that you learn and you meet, and that's what really brings it together as a community and helps us evolve there. And it is that. It's the students that you meet and the fundamentals that Derek teaches to bring us to where we are.
Now, Brock, you are the head of the advocacy group Keep Alberta Rolling. Can you talk a bit about what your organization really does?
Yeah, I think we quite a few things. We really just like the name suggests, try to advocate for the growth of the screen industry specifically in the province of Alberta, work with municipalities to try to get them to implement film-friendly policy, development, things like, implementing commissions or funds, things of that nature, and just try to raise awareness about all the successes that we've seen in this industry. So we've seen over, like you mentioned, Ghostbusters and a couple other projects, but just last night or yesterday, Alberta Made in Alberta projects were nominated for 30 Emmys. So
Wow.
So 24 for The Last of Us and 6 for Prey. So it just shows the accolades that the hard work and skill and talent of Albertans are putting on the table at a global scale, and also just the quality of the locations here, which is partnerships between municipalities, the provincial government, the organizations in the film industry, and so many other private businesses and landowners. So it's trying to promote those people and encourage more of that to happen. And certainly over the last number of years, Alberta has become a major player. So it's really exciting to see.
That's cool, because a lot of times we hear about Vancouver being Hollywood North, Toronto being Hollywood North all the time. What can we do to really entice more producers to bring their films here to Alberta?
Yeah, I think the provincial government is doing it. The film and television tax credit has been a game changer. They've been supportive in working with the municipalities. I think some of our secondary municipalities, like Lethbridge, like maybe Red Deer, Medicine Hat, can start thinking about regional development so that it's province-wide and not just Calgary and Edmonton centric, but the film industry loves to utilize all the locations of Alberta. So I think we just have to keep on the track of that we're on now, which is collaboration and training and the whole province working together to try to make this industry succeed. And I think it's working. So we just more of the same, in my opinion.
Around 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to work with legendary film director Denis Villeneuve on the film Arrival. I had the principal role as one of the main TV anchors in the feature film that was shot in Old Montreal. What an incredible experience. I can check it off my bucket list here. Now, Mr. Villeneuve wanted to actually hire journalists to be in his movie. He was very humble and approachable. So, Scott, as a director, let me ask you something. How important is it for you to never forget your roots and remember where you came from?
You have, it is one of the most important things. You have to remember that, otherwise this industry will eat you up and spit you right back out. You have to be humble. You have to be constantly be thankful. And a lot of the opportunities I have, I am very thankful for having. It's 1 in a million chance to work with some of these people, and especially with Walter Hill, and a huge fan of his growing up, and now I work next to him. And same with even Kevin Sorbo. I've done 2 movies now with him, and growing up watching him as Hercules. And you gotta stay your grounds and stick your ways, otherwise you're not gonna last through it. The film industry is never a job, it is a lifestyle.
And busy too. I remember Denis Villeneuve said to me after I was done shooting my scene, listen, Hal, I got to split. I got to go to Istanbul, Turkey to shoot the new Blade Runner movie with Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford. I'm like, what? And he left that same day. It was just incredible. Derek, as you watch the careers of both Scott and Brock develop and advance, what do you feel really needs to be said to future Alberta filmmakers?
I think one of the things that I would say, and Brock and Scott are a great example of this, is that it's a possibility, right? I think that's the thing, especially growing up in Southern Alberta myself, not really realizing that the film industry was accessible. It was something that was a possibility, right? And that's one of the great things that a post-secondary education can do. It opens up doors, it opens up possibilities. And I think that that's what I would say. It would be like, if this is something that's really of interest to you, there's so many different ways to get involved in this industry. Being able to have a well-rounded foundation and a post-secondary advanced education kind of environment is great, but there's lots of other ways to get involved in the industry. And again, Brock talks a lot about those in his advocacy, and there's lots of different ways to be involved and to really learn that this is it's a valuable part of our society. It's an incredible part of our economy. And this is a really bright time in the film industry right now in our province.
Derek Olson is a professor at the University of Lethbridge. Brock Skretting is with Keep Alberta Rolling, and Scott Sikma is an award-winning director. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So much.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and thanks for watching.